the air is escaping his particular, balloon, and that he has to figure out how to rescue his presidency. So I'm not going to completely assume that, nothing is possible. After all, he came from nowhere to get to where he was with a lot of political smarts and capability. And, one other thing you get from reading David Plouffe's book, which, by the way, a lot of this analysis we're in the middle of is really based on, the book's called The Audacity to Win, is you see Obama being very tough on himself as a candidate, realizing that he wasn't good enough in debates, that he wasn't really seizing the bull by the horns when the campaign was sort of drifting in the fall of 2007. He actually became a better politician during that period because he was self-correcting. Mm-hmm. And so, what that says to me is the potential is still there. But he's got to take some risks. And up till now, what we've seen is a guy who's pretty cautious. So I don't know. I mean, you can frame the question, but you can't answer it.
Has he surrendered that kind of online momentum to the right? And we see the Tea Party. We see mm-hmm. Scott Brown's victory, both as a fundraiser and with that kind of that righteous rage that his supporters have of kind of upturning the way things were supposed to go. Mm-hmm. And that's threatening Obama's health care bill. So is the momentum on the other side now?
Well, it's a lot easier to rally people against something than for something. And the internet is a force multiplier overall. What we've seen again and again is what Clay Shirky likes to call stop energy is easier to mobilize than do something energy. And so the right has an easier job now because they're out of power. They have no responsibility to get anything done. They just have to block things.
I have to ask you this. When we talk about the Obama disconnect, might half of that burden be on the part of his online base as well? Were these possibly slacktivists, people who were enchanted by the idea and the romance of being part of that historic campaign, and then they got bored and moved on to something else?
No, I don't think that's fair. I mean, I would situate the blame more at the middle level, at the people who were both staff and sort of super volunteers who were given a fairly large role in they not insisting on a more transparent kind of people-led organization. I really don't think that it's fair to call these people slacktivists. Mm-hmm. It's more that you need this integration between leadership and volunteers. It's a two-way street, and I feel like the campaign understood that. And since the election, the political decision to bottle up that energy, to not rock the boat, to not organize at the local level. I mean, Organizing for America, we just did a big report on Tech President by Ari Melber called OFA Year One. You can get it on the techpresident.com site. One of the things he pointed out is that OFA has never asked people to call into districts of opponents or to go after the swing votes. Uh-huh. I mean, this is something they did during the election all the time when we were, there were 20 states that really were the swing. And so people in California who knew they were going to, that state was going to go blue were making literally hundreds of thousands of phone calls into swing states. But they haven't done that here because of this inside strategy. Don't rock the boat. Don't mobilize people in ways that will alienate these members of Congress. Leave it to Rahm. Leave it to the guys who know how to twist arms the old-fashioned way.
Finally, Micah, all of the big talk about transparency, about open government, mm-hmm. What has Obama done, and has he been able to live up to that talk himself?
Well, my read on this is that this is a work in progress, and the glass is more than half full. The White House itself, they've done a couple of things that are quite good in terms of, oh gosh, now we have a delivery man. I'm so sorry, Jesse.
That's all right. We both work from home. This is what happens.
For example, they've done something unprecedented, which is publish the visitor logs. So every 90 days, we get this huge data dump of, all the people who have been visiting the White House. And it's really a fascinating social map of power and influence and access. That's never been done before, and that's really a breath of fresh air. They've also, in terms of data transparency, really have been doing a great deal to move the entire government in the direction of openness rather than secrecy. And we're seeing the fruits of that come out every day. Data.gov, which is the main repository for all this open government data, now has more than 168,000 data sets. It's going up every day. Every agency is now under a strict timeline to start publishing what they call high-value data sets to engage the public in evaluating what is a high-value data set, and to create special web pages on every agency site where all this open data can be found. And it has to be posted in machine-readable, searchable, mashable form. I mean, all the stuff that geeks get excited about. This is all really good. And it is setting off a wave of innovation and change at the bureaucratic level across government that we shouldn't underestimate. It could be the most significant change in how government works in our lifetime, and all because, a couple of people have been basically given a lot of running room by Obama to implement this. The White House itself, I think, is still, in some ways schizophrenic about openness and participation. They did more on this front in the first half of the year than they've done in the second in terms of connecting Obama to his public. And I think that's because you have a communications team that still worries about message control as opposed to engagement, and is basically, very skeptical about the idea that the internet is a new platform for changing the relationship between government and who it governs. So it's a process that I'm willing to honestly help push rather than throw the towel in on it. I think that there's quite a bit good going on there. And, it's part of a larger wave. You guys see it happening in Toronto, I'm sure, with the city opening up data. We're seeing it with many cities in the United States as well as state governments. We're seeing it with the British government now has opened its own data portal built by Tim Berners-Lee of all, it doesn't get better than that. And, in effect, we're seeing a bit of a virtuous circle develop of different players at different levels of government, in effect, competing for standing here on who's going to be the most nimble, the most innovative. And that's very promising. So I'll take that. I mean, I think the we.gov vision that we talk about is still far off, but these are steps in the right direction, and we shouldn't underestimate their long-term value.
Ever the optimist, Micah Sifry. It's always such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, same here, Jesse.
Search Engine is produced by me and a community of grassroots super volunteers who I will abandon the moment I am elected president. Email me story tips and freelance pitches at jesse@jessebrown.ca. The blog is tvo.org/searchengine. I'm on Twitter @JesseBrown, and this show is released under a Creative Commons license, so go ahead and email it to congressmen in swing states. It will confuse them entirely. The next podcast will be up first thing Tuesday morning.